How much money can you make as a retiree who goes into acting for film and television? Can you make any money? Can you make enough that it matters? At what point does it stop being a hobby and start becoming an actual job? Well, in this video, we're going to take an honest look at the entire range of pay. If you find this information useful, hit that subscribe button.
I'm Scott. I didn't start acting until I was 58, and I've been booking real film and TV work ever since. It's been a lot of fun, and no matter your age, you can do it too.
There's a reason that I waited until later in this series to address the topic of money. Because when you've reached a certain age, there's a value to just doing things that are different, to tapping back into that creative side of yourself. I always teach my kids, don't do anything just for the money, and that applies to acting as well. But the fact is, you can make money at it, so let's talk about how much you can make at all the different levels as your career progresses. All right, so when you're first starting out, you are not going to make a lot of money. In fact, you will probably lose money. Hold up, how am I going to lose money? For those of you starting out, you're going to be looking at independent films, you're going to be looking at student films, and a lot of those are low or no pay. But they're great experience and a really creative set. It's a fun place to be. But the fact is you have to drive there. If it's far away, you might even need to have a hotel room. And so suddenly you're in the hole, but you're learning how the process works. You're learning what life is like on the set. You're learning how to audition, and you're gaining confidence. This stage doesn't last years. It might last a few months though. So what is your potential income at that first level? I would say you stand to lose $100 a day or make $100 a day. And that's based on a review of projects or breakdowns available on Actors Access. There's a video I've done about Actors Access. Please check that out. Now that you've cut your teeth on the low and no pay jobs, you will be moving up to non-union jobs. Those pay less, but they do typically pay. And it really varies if you have a speaking role or you're a background actor, of course. But here you're talking about independent films, regional television productions, and commercials. Now this is not full-time income, but for a retiree, I mean, it can be meaningful. Again, I went on Actors Access and I reviewed non-union jobs, and what I found is that they range from $0 a day up to about $200 a day. You're beginning to see probably that the number of days is pretty important. So the next level is union work. SAG-AFTRA, Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artist Projects. These projects pay more, but they're a little harder to score. And they're based on a tiered system that is keyed off of the overall budget for the project, because the union understands that small budget films can't pay as much as, like Marvel Productions could. The lowest rate that you're going to find for SAG is called the ultra low budget, and the day rate there is $249 for a day. A little larger production is the moderate low budget, and the day rate for that is $436 a day. The next step up in overall budget would be the low budget, which has a day rate of $810 a day. Again, these are for speaking roles. And finally, you get to the rate for a basic theatrical release, which is $1,246 for a day. And that same rate applies for like TV shows. If there's a limited series you see on Netflix, for example, and you happen to get cast in a role there, a speaking role, you show up for a single day, that's $1,246 per day. And at this stage, you typically would have an agent, and of course an agent needs a commission, but typically that is set aside by the studio, so they pay that commission and it doesn't come out of your pocket. Finally, the peak of the mountain, the consistent character actor. Now these are people who have that real person look, they fit a specific age or profession type, they are reliable, and they are easy to work with. And in this case, you can have a meaningful side income and a semi-regular paycheck with an occasional windfall. So let's say we're talking about a TV show, and you've been doing this for a few years, and you get cast as a guest star on a half-hour show, a sitcom. The rate for that is $6,853 for the week, because it's a SAG-AFTRA project. If you're cast as a guest star on a one-hour show, think Matlock or something like that, the rate for that is $10,965 for the week. But the real takeaway here is only you can decide why you want to get into acting later in life. Is it for the money? Well, Okay, you may be waiting to see some of that. Or is it for the enjoyment, the opportunity, and just the chance to stay engaged and creative? And that's a pretty good reason. Plus, at the parties, you'll have the coolest stories. So now that you have a good idea of the amount that people can make at the different levels of their film and television acting careers, I'm going to show you what I actually made on a project. In the next video, I'll break down what I got paid for and what it cost me to do that. Hope you'll check that out. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and that's a wrap.